on storage. In my opinion, these vaults, what's going to happen when the system goes down, they're just going to close their doors. There's not going to be anything in and nothing out. You won't have access to your metal, but that's the same time you don't have access to your bank account. You don't have access to credit cards. Nothing's working. So obviously you want to have metal on hand. And the question in an IRA is, do you take it all out, have it delivered to you, and, take the tax hit plus maybe a 10% penalty? I don't really think that's necessary. The great taking, I think, is going to be largely, if not almost entirely, digital. I think it will be digital from the standpoint of your bank accounts, your brokerage accounts, your insurance, annuities, things like that. And I think longer term, real estate's going to be taken because people aren't going to be able to pay their real estate taxes. So I think that's the bulk of the great taking.
According to recent insights, nearly 70% of Americans depend on digital systems for their finances. But Bill Holter warns that in a severe crisis, access to your assets could be cut off instantly. He calls this the great taking, a scenario where every digital asset, from bank accounts and brokerage funds to even real estate, could be seized with the push of a button, leaving millions with nothing. And for those turning to physical assets, Holter points out that not all metals are safe either. Only specific US mint coins, like gold and silver eagles, might be exempt from confiscation. He urges caution about leaving precious assets in vaults or shared custody, likening it to a trap where a company's failure could wipe out your holdings overnight. Even retirement funds and homes might not be safe, as rising real estate taxes could force homeowners out. In this video, Holter breaks down the critical steps you need to take to protect your wealth and reveals why, in this age of digital finance, it's more important than ever to act fast.
I don't think that they will go into, crash into vaults and confiscate, because they've got to physically do that. They can't do that with the push of a button. If you do hold IRAs, and I've recommended this now for years, you want to have U.S. mint lineage coin. You want gold eagles, you want silver eagles. And the reason being, if you're buying a gold eagle this week or a silver eagle this week from the mint, can they really come back next week and say, but you've got to turn around and sell it back to us? I think there'd be all kinds of lawsuits. I think within an IRA account, could they say gold and silver, or gold or silver are illegal? Yeah, they could do that. And if you own bars, if you own generic coin, those would certainly be subject to it, because it's basically raw and privately fabricated metal. Could they confiscate foreign sovereigns? Yeah, they could. Could they confiscate American coin? Yes, they can, but it will be much, much more difficult because it is U.S. coin. So I would just say, if you hold an IRA and you decide that you do want to leave it in a vault, make sure that they're U.S. mint lineage coin. Now, as far as dealers are concerned, I guess the first and biggest red flag is if you ask the question, well, how much is this particular coin? And they give you a runaround and don't give you an answer, then you could be pretty sure that they're not on the up and up. I can tell you, Andy Sheckman and I did a little bit of investigation. This was quite a few years ago. This was probably 2015, 16, something like that. And there's one particular person that does quite a few interviews and is telling people to do the right thing. They're telling people that the pre-1933 gold is is absolutely good because they're considered collectibles. They're not bullion, and they'd be almost impossible to confiscate. And with silver, they're saying you should buy junk silver. And I agree with both of those. The only problem is Andy and I, we called that particular company. And this is when gold was trading at maybe $1,200 an ounce, something like that. And we had MS63 St. Gaudens priced at 1350, 1340, 1350. And we called in, and of course, we got the runaround as to not wanting to give us price. But I pushed and I pushed, and I got their price. And their price was over 1650. And that's because this particular company charges, on top of the retail price, they charge 26%. But people don't know that until after they send money, and then they find out. And I've had some people ask me about it, and they've immediately called and said, I want to cancel the trade, and the trades have been canceled. But to me, I mean, the retail price is more than adequate for dealers to do business, earn a fair profit, versus this particular company coming up with the retail price, so they're already getting paid on that, and then they bang you for 26%. So yeah, I mean I would say that is probably the number one red flag, is if they don't want to give you pricing. One in particular, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with an IRA. It could be just an outside trade that you're planning to vault. You always want to have, in an IRA, you need to have a trustee, and you need to have a custodian. The trustee basically does your book work for you, and the custodian holds your metal. And you also need to have a dealer because you need to buy the metal. You don't want all three of those to be the same entity. You don't want to go to company XYZ who says, okay, we'll buy you X amount of gold or X amount of silver. It'll be accounted for by our trustee, and we'll hold it in our vault. The danger there is your metal never ever got bought. They took your money, and they're sending you statements. I mean, this happened back in a big way back in, I think it was 2000, I want to say 5 or 6, something like that. And I forget who it was. I think it was Payne Weber. And it was mega millions of dollars that they had, that they were storing for years and years, and they never bought the metal. And they admitted to it. They paid a fine. There was no prosecution or anything. They made everybody whole, but they made everybody whole because that's a company that stayed in business. If a company doesn't stay in business, that does something like that, you're out of luck for everything. You're going to lose it all. So you want to have a separate precious metals broker, a separate trustee, and a separate vault. Now, outside of an IRA, there's a lot of companies that act as the precious metals broker and the vault. You don't want to do that, again, because you got nobody looking over anybody else's shoulder. I mean, in the instance of the IRA, you've got 3 separate entities, and each entity is watching the other entity. If your dealer says, we sent the metal, and the vault says we didn't get it, well, there's a problem. But if it's the same company, you're never going to hear that. You're never going to know that. And the metal was never bought, and you never owned it. So that's probably, to me, that's the biggest danger. That's the biggest scam.
Now, you know about the risks of the Great Taking and how your assets could be at stake. So next, you're going to need to watch this important video to learn the best strategies to protect your wealth even further. Don't miss out on that critical info. Hit that link, leave a comment, and subscribe to stay updated on the latest insights. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.